How are you all doing today? How are we? Yes, we are going to break through that invisible bubble that you have right now because you want to hear your thoughts and feelings as well. So one of the things you'll do is you might do something like this. Oh my God, really? Is it imaginable that someone could? We just did. I really want to see you get involved in this discussion because what we move into now, as Brenda says, is a discussion around celebrity and that word that encompasses engagement, action, power, movement. It's called activism. And when we put those together, celebrity and activism, some people say no, don't hold that space. But if we look at 2020, we now say Marcus Radford MBE, because he was challenged with it himself from his lived experience to support 4 million children and their families in relation to food insecurity, food poverty. If we flip back to 2016 and we say Colin Kirkpatrick taking the knee at NFL, supporting Black Lives Matter, knowing that 6 billion plus people potentially could be watching online and on their TV sets. Remember, there's about 9 odd billion people in this world. He took the knee and then experienced the fire and fury online, and also by the then sitting president. But he felt it was important to use that moment, use that time to express something that was dear to him. Black Lives Matter. So there is the argument that the space shouldn't be occupied by celebrities, but then we think to advance things, we need them. We're going to have a conversation, and maybe you'll join us in that conversation as well. I've got 2 distinguished panelists joining me today. You've heard. If you were with us last night at World Headquarters, you'll know that the first panelist is an award-winning singer and songwriter, over 1 billion views on YouTube, 50 million streams. You might remember him from the X Factor in 2015 as well. Josh Daniel is here. Give him a round of applause. And a living legend. I studied in Newcastle, okay, at the time when he was here. Well, just slightly after he was here, in the 90s, okay? So Andy Cole. This is a footballing legend, a social entrepreneur, a football commentator, also analyst. He's the honorary president of Show Racism the Red Card, and he's wearing socks still today that support his old team. Please give it up for the one and only Shaka Hislop. Good to see you. Good to see you. So look, we're going to get into the conversation now, and like I said, I am watching because I am going to come to you because it's important. I'm going to start though with you first, Shaka. In the 90s, something happened where in 1996, you decided not only to put your own money into something, but to start something absolutely fantastic, which still resonates to us today. But there was an incident that took place in 1990. Just share with us, before I ask you my first question, what happened?
So I guess the spark to the founding of Show Racism the Red Card was on the back of a racist incident that I suffered just after joining Newcastle United myself. My wife and I were out in town. We needed petrol late one night. There's a petrol station just outside St. James's Park. I'm not sure if it's still there. And we pulled over. And as I'm filling up with petrol, a group of youths come walking down the hill outside St. James's Park and started shouting racist abuse at me. As they got closer, one of those kids recognized who I was. They started chanting my name and asking for autographs. As I put it, from 50 yards away, I was a black man worthy of the most vile racist abuse. From 50 feet away, I was to be lauded and my autograph asked for. It sparked a conversation between myself and Jed Greby, the founder of Show Racism the Red Card and CEO. He was doing some work with a group called Youth Against Racism in Europe at the time in the Northeast. He had written to players in Newcastle, as he did. I always answered my own fan mail, and I responded to Jed's letter about Youth Against Racism in Europe with a small check and a promise to support his work however I can. So the conversation between him and I then shifted to that racist incident, to how it spoke to the duality of who I was as a black man here in the Northeast.
Marcus Riley talked in his keynote about Doreen Lawrence and the argument Marcus was having with his wife at the time on about the book and a certain direction it should take and why people do certain things. Within your charity, you very much honed in on education.
Yes.
And educating young people in order, I suspect, to change the narrative later on down the line. But yet, if we fast forward still to today, and we look at West Ham 4 months ago, chanting, people throwing things to the black players, it's still there. So how do we root it out when our young people and our seniors are still partaking in those racist abuse and language to players? How far have we come in the last 18 plus years?
I'll describe it as my glass is always half full, and I always tend to focus on the progress as opposed to how much further we still have to go. I thought what Marcus just said moments ago about the first slave on the first slave ship, wondering how do we get these shackles off, and it took some 400 years to get the physical shackles off, and we're still having discussions today around how we share the impacts of our peoples being enslaved for centuries.
I suppose I struggle when I look at 2020 and May 25th, George Floyd, and then just this energy beyond which I've ever seen before in terms of the Football Association now saying, okay, let's truly throw that red card, let's stop racism. And I don't know how you sat with that. It's great, it's good, absolutely, but it took the death of a man in America and a tidal wave of outcry across the world for them to do, which you started in 1996, and that's the chairperson of West Ham, that's the chairperson in terms of Newcastle United, everyone getting beyond and getting behind. But because of that May 25th, what were you thinking before you even got phone calls, before you saw the big figures that were going to come for the marketing campaigns and all of that, when you got the phone call to say, right, we're stepping it up, when the phone went down, what did you think?
Let me just say, first off, Trevor, I really struggled in the wake of the death of George Floyd. I found it hard, and though I've been involved in this work, as I say, for 25 years, I feel like we started Show Racism the Red Card as a promise to my own children to deliver a better world to them. Amen. And now here I was confronted with a feeling that I felt like I failed in the most basic of promises to my own children.
How do you just tell the average person to like get out the bed and show up, you know? Okay. It's a struggle for that, you know.
I will comment on that in a minute, but
I'll pass it to
Josh first, because it came from you, Josh. And you said about, you've got to show up, but I mean, because in many ways you've been gifted that opportunity, but it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard to show up every time when you think, actually, I just want to stay in the duvet.
Yeah, it is hard sometimes, and I think you've made a very valid point there in saying that, we're almost incentivized to show up because we have a profile, we have a platform, or we have obligations to meet, and how do we get somebody who works a 9-to-5 job, somebody who's a student, somebody who lives life like a normal person, how do we get that person to not stay under the duvet, so you put it. And again, I think that it's just really important that we continue to show up, and not just, me doing something like this today, I am not singing, I'm not performing, I'm not showing people that I can write songs, I'm not demonstrating anything to do with my gift, I'm just showing up to be part of the discussion. And, I have a, fairly large audience of people my age and younger, and I think that it's important that we're represented from all verticals. Like you said, Shaka, it's important that it's not just footballers, it's not just artists, it's people from all walks of life, it's people from all verticals. And I think the more that we broadly represent, we slowly start to include more people.
I get you on that, but I'm going to expand slightly what I think the questionnaire is saying, because it's also about who's supporting you. Yeah, in order to show up, you need to have people holding you. You need to have people who care for you,
Yeah.
who you trust as well, to give you that talk sometimes, to
Yeah.
get up, to do the thing, to do the event. So you've got to make sure you're surrounded by the right people as well.
Do you know what? It's interesting, just on that, because I had quite a different upbringing to you, Shaka, and so my dad is black, my mum is white, and my dad hasn't been around for my whole life. So my upbringing was almost the opposite to yours. I essentially had all white family. Mum was a single parent, and all white friends. I grew up in the northeast of England, where I was one of, if not the only at times, I was one of probably 2 black people in the whole school. I didn't grow up around black friends. I didn't grow up around any black family, and so for me, it was almost quite isolating, because as much as I had the love and support of my family and friends, it's not something that my family and friends could empathize with, you know. And so although they could give me all of the love and support in the world, there will always be that slight disconnect. And so I think it's just an interesting point you've made there about a support network, because for me, you know, it's not as though I had my black father there who understands the struggles that a young black man would go through, who could sit me down and have that talk with me, you know, and provide some of that support network. So you almost have to start to pave a little bit of that support network for yourself, and sort of build a bit of a thicker skin and build a little bit of armor to kind of, you know, cover yourself against that kind of thing.
We're running out of time, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this conversation offline, because we've got a 10 minutes break, because I think it's important that you two have that and you hear that your question answered, and I will share with you as well. But for now, I've got to say thank you, Shaka, Hislop, and also Joss, Daniel. Please give them a round of applause. I've got to thank you as well, our studio audience. Thank you very much as well.